schools in the US. So who are actually the characters of this debate? The characters of this debate are the students in an all-girls school, the students in an all-boys school, the government, the society, and also the parents of these said students. So who will actually abolish these said schools? The one who will abolish the schools is actually the government. When do you actually abolish something? You actually abolish something when you think it can cause more harm than good. So what are single-sex schools? And why are they actually very unique? Why are we actually debating about this? So single-sex schools have people from outside these single-sex schools have this perception that single-sex schools are for elites, that these are private schools, these are schools for rich, so for rich people. And why would you question it that why are there no public schools that are single-sex? Usually, single-sex schools just to describe it further, these are schools that only have one sex in each school. It's either they would only have an all-boys student or an all-girls student. So, sit down. So, their curriculum is actually based on the gender. That is actually what the government, that's actually the main reason why the government thinks we should abolish these single-sex schools, because their curriculum is based on the gender. So why want the change the curriculum not work, and why does it have to be really abolished? They have these single-sex schools have their standards to be met. And for example is for the ladies. The ladies are expected to be prompt and proper, especially when they're facing males, because this isn't normal for them. This is not their comfort zone, because in their everyday lives they're only facing females. Because in a sense it would be hard for them because it's uncomfortable. It's not what I'm used to. And when you get to college, that's not you can't have a college university that only has girls because it's hard for them. It's not real life. Because in real life you won't just socialize with just females if you're female and just males when you're male. But you have to learn, and high school years are your formation years, and these years are the years that when you actually need to develop your social skills, when you have to learn how to speak your mind, that you're comfortable to actually say what's on your mind without actually hesitating that the boys might have the different perspective of what I'm saying because I'm a girl, they're boys. There's actually this gap being built, which is actually bad because these gaps will lead to an uncomfortable surrounding in the future. And maybe yes, they can cope later on in their no, thank you. They can cope later on, but it would be a hard start for them. Like what I said in universities, maybe in their third year or their fourth year, they're already comfortable with the male gender. But how about their first year? It will be hard for them to actually cope up with what's going on with their surroundings because it's new for them. Males are not normal for me because I don't see them every day. Even I see my dad, it's still not a normal male that I can talk to because we're in the same age. And we can, because it's also important that we have this exchange of ideas of a male and a female, because at least there's different perspective of what is a female feeling and what is a male feeling. So in this situation, you can actually have exchange of ideas which you can actually apply in real life, and that's what is supposed to be the main goal of school, to teach students to actually apply what they're being taught in real life, and that's what's important. Why do we enter single-sex schools? Because single-sex schools, parents have this expectation, like what I said, for a female to be prim and proper, or a male to be athletic. But being focused on just one gender is hard. It's hard for the society because there's actually the underestimating going on when you go out in the real world. If you're a female, they're underestimating you because they think that you're actually just learning female stuff. They don't think that you're actually learning sports because they have this perception that you're just a female, that you just learn sewing or sit down. So to move on to my arguments, my first argument is focus on one gender. like, what if they want woodwork for practical arts? But in an all-girls school, what's being taught to you is how to cook, how to clean, or how to sew. But there's this thought from the people outside the school that's what is only being taught to you. So there's underestimation going on. So when you go out to the real world and you see that there is this discrimination against so there's this you're just being closed into a box, and this box is what I'm saying is limiting your capacities. If you actually want to be a basketball player when you grow up, but you're a girl, it's normal for you to have that dream, because high school is your formation years. You try to know what you want, and sometimes, most of the time, you don't know what you want, and it's actually a bridge to your future. And when you go to your future, it's not just an all-girl world. It's not just an all-guy world. It's both girl and guy world. You have to be comfortable in that world. So I move on to my second argument, that it will be harder to cope outside the school. First, it will be uncomfortable for them because it's not normal. And when it's hard to cope, you will not move the way that your normal ways. I mean, you're different with your friends than people that you actually don't know. So if you're used to interacting with guys, you won't be shy on how to move or how to talk, because you won't think that there's actually perception of you, because you know how guys think, because you actually interact with them every single day, because you are actually learning in the same institution. And when you're comfortable with who you're actually talking to, you won't have this hindrance to actually speak your mind. And that's what's important in this society these days, to actually have communication and to actually have clear communication. So for us in the government side, we want a curriculum that takes into everyone's best interest, an equal curriculum, same level of education, to show real life the touches of both girls and boys. And that's the end of this one.
We now request the leader of opposition to take the floor. The leader of opposition, please take the floor.
Abolishing single-sex schools is undermining the parental rights to choose, as well as depriving children of the appropriate style of education for them. So before I move on to my substantive, I would like to state 4 main rebuttals. The government came and said that the single-sex schools has the perception of the elite. So on the principal level, we would like to ask the government, so why is this perception actually valid? We said, actually, if we go with the government side, it's going to undermine the right of choice, which is more worse. We see it's going to create more harm at the end of the day. And on the second rebuttal, and how they say that curriculum is based on gender and that is going to cause harm. We see that it is still not going to cause harms at the end of the day. Because what we see as single-sex schools are going to do, as because their subjects are based on gender, it's going to promote good and more better understanding to these people, which is going to benefit these students at the end of the day. And moving on to my third rebuttal, how they say that there's going to be a gap and how these students are going to feel uncomfortable when they go into college. We see that, first of all, these children can actually adapt. We see that every children actually have the problem of adaptation anyway. And we see that even if they actually feel uncomfortable, we see that they still have friends who are boys. So we see that they are not going to feel uncomfortable. They are less likely to feel they dream. They can do what they dream. They can do their dream job. So we see that there is no limitation in single-sex schools of their dreams. And moving on to the fourth about how you say that the problem is in high schools. We see that there is no problem because when these children change from secondary school to high school, this problem still occurs, which they can adapt. So we see that there is no problem at the end of the day. So moving on to our counter proposal. So what we're going to do is that we're not going to abolish single-sex schools, which means that we're going to allow single-sex schools and also co-educational schools. So moving on to my split, I'm going to talk about the right to choose, and my second speaker is going to talk about how limiting the choice of parents creates harms to the children. So moving on to the first level of substantiation. The first level of substantiation is about the government role. We see that the government role is actually to protect the people and to protect the human rights of the people. So what they have to do is actually acknowledge the parental rights. We see that they have to give these parental rights to choose what is best for their child. We see that what is coming from the government side is that there is actually no dire need to actually abolish these single-sex schools because we see that there is no harms at the end of the day. So in order to fulfill the government role, what we see we have to do is to not abolish single-sex schools. What we have to do is actually allow them because it also brings benefits to these children. It lets these children have better understanding and it also doesn't undermine the parental rights. So moving on to the second level of substantiation, the parental interest. We see that the parents' interest is what is best for their children. What is best for their children? So they're going to choose the school that is best for their children. So if we go with abolishing, which is what the government side is saying, that means that these parents can't choose single-sex schools, which might be what they think is best for their children. We said these parental interests is what is best for their children, so then they should have maximum choice of what they choose because they know what is best for their children, and we said they have the right to choose. And what if we go with the government side by abolishing and not letting these parents have the rights? We see that the parents are going to see that the government is not working because the parents are going to see that the government is not letting them have these rights to choose what is best for their children, and it sends the wrong message to society. It sends the message that the government wants to limit the choice of these people, which is not what the government should actually stand for, which is not the government role. We said the government should stand for the human rights of the people and should try to protect the people. So moving on to the third level of substantiation, we said even if parents want to abolish single-sex schools, maybe some parents don't like single-sex schools, but we see that we can still, on our proposal, we can still send these children to the schools, to co-educational schools, if that is what parents want. Because we are not abolishing single-sex schools. What we're actually doing is letting these people have the maximum choice, letting these parents have the parental rights to choose what is best for their children. So what we see that what the only thing from the government side is saying that the curriculum is based on gender and that is bad. And we have already attacked it because we see that it is not bad at the end of the day. It actually promotes better understanding. And on the issue that we say that they're going to feel uncomfortable, we see that these children can adapt, and also even if they still have friends with your boys. So we see that at the end of the day, abolishing single-sex schools is undermining the parental rights to choose, as well as depriving these children of the appropriate style of education for them. And if we go by abolishing, we're not letting these parents have the rights they should have, and the government is not fulfilling their role because the government is limiting the rights of the parents, which is to choose what is best for the child, which means that these parents should have choices to choose whether they should send their children to single-sex schools or co-educational schools. They should choose what is best for their children, and we see that if the parents don't want their children to be in single-sex schools, they can do that, and because we said we are not abolishing single-sex schools at the end of the day. So we said what the government side is doing is only undermining parental rights and not letting these children have the appropriate education which these parents are going to determine at the end of the day. Thank you.
Substitute. college, we studied in an all-girls school. And we find it hard to actually cope up when we try to interact with boys. Why is this so? Because first of all, we don't see boys often. And we are aware of the fact that when we go to college, we'll be interacting with these boys. But then when we interact with these boys, it's not all the time that they're always going to feel comfortable to them. Because this school, especially when you're in high school, our teachers have instilled these kinds of values in us, which what girls should be and how you should act around boys and whatnot. But then we say that the government should actually help people accept that there are different kinds of girls and boys in society. Meaning, you should not restrict these certain girls to a certain stereotype that they always have to be prim and proper. That you have to be able to accept that there are these girls who may want to be more boyish or whatnot. But then we say that these single-sex schools are making it so much harder for the government to actually forward this goal at the end of the day. Now, before I move on to my arguments on how this will affect the society, and second, on the relationship of the parent and the government, let me first start with my rebuttals. Now, first, he talks about right of choice and how you're actually stepping on the right of the parents. But then we have to look at how government stands as a parental body here in a way. Meaning, and if these parents are actually under the government, they have to be willing to give up some of their rights. We're not talking about all of their rights, but they have to be willing to give up some of their rights for the government to actually achieve the goals that they want. Meaning, for example, let's take a look at an example. Like, for example, you want your child to be able to drink when she's 15 years old or whatnot. But then the government wants to instill responsible individuals. That's why they don't really allow 15-year-olds to drink and go crazy and whatnot. And this is the reason why we believe that the government should interfere in this case, because we want acceptance at the end. We don't want people feeling uncomfortable, and we don't want people seeing other people as weird whenever they're different in a way. Second, she talks about how you're depriving the students of you're depriving the parents of their rights, you're depriving the students of their capacity to get better education. But then what we're talking about here is not really public school and private school where there may be a difference in education. We're talking about private single-sex schools that are private schools, meaning the parents still pay for it. Meaning, as private schools, these schools have to reach the expectation of the parents that they get better education since they pay a lot of money for it. Because when we talk about this curriculum that we want to forward, we're talking about how these curriculum will cater to even girls who want to try guy things, for guys who want to sew or whatnot. Because in the end, when we talk about private single-sex schools, for example, all-girls schools, you actually restrict them to sewing when a certain girl actually wants to play some rough sport or what have you. But when you have a school which is co-ed, a girl can actually be that certain student can actually be the one who can be able to choose which area of interest she wants to sit down, which area of interest she wants to pursue. Third is how she talks about how the parents are not respected in a way because what they want is the best for their child. But then you have to look at how parents aren't the only ones who are going to benefit from their child at the end of the day. Because we have to look at how society will benefit from these children and how the government will benefit from these children. And in the end, if you don't instill if the government doesn't do anything, then these children will be as their parents were. There will still be that gap that is existing and that we want to actually destroy in government side. And she talks about how government is not working and it sends the wrong message. But then we see that the government is working in this sense because first of all, we're actually destroying this gap that is existing. And we have to question how will the opposition side destroy this gap, this certain perception, these certain stereotypes in society when all they want to do is let the parents choose. Now let's move on to my arguments. My argument will talk about how society will accept this and the benefits it may bring to society. We have to look at status quo. And when you're in a single-sex school, there are these different. When you're in a single-sex school, there are these different things. That, for example, when compared to when I talk to a person from a co-ed education and she's kind of boyish and whatnot, it actually seems as something weird because that's not what they were taught in school. In school, they were taught to be prim and proper, they have to be ladylike and whatnot. And they believe that it's not what it's supposed to be because that's not what the values of school taught them. But then this is why it's wrong. Because first of all, even when you get out of high school, these values will stay with you. You may not express it, declare it like, oh, you're wrong, but then it will stay with you forever. With our proposal, we can see that society, we can see that not all people in society will actually accept this. But at the end of the day, the government can't please everybody. And then we see that it's okay that this is so. Because first of all, the government has to take care of their citizens in this way. Because these people, when they get out of high school, when they get out of college, the government will be the one benefiting from them. And the government, if they want these people to be accepted, to be good and whatnot, the government has to do something now in the formation years. And we also want these students to have exposure to what real life really is. That there are different people, that you're not stick to one stereotype and whatnot. And we want the government to teach these people that there are other views. And we see that we want to abolish single-sex high school because first of all, this is the formation years, and we want to destroy the prejudice and the stereotypes that are present in society. Second, we want to talk about the relationship of parent and government. How we want to answer how parents will accept this in the right of choice, and the right of choice of parents the opposition keeps telling us about. But then we have to answer this first. Why do parents send children to school? The parents send their children to school for formation, for training grounds and whatnot. But so we see that at the end, we still get the formation and training ground that we achieve because they're still going to send them to school. But then you talk about how these parents their rights will be stepped and they won't be respected because their child might choose basketball over sewing or something. But then we have to talk about how this certain prejudice of parents is the main, this certain expectation of parents is the main reason why we have this gap in society, why there are these certain stereotypes. That is why the government should take action. The government should help these children to be able to explore their different interests and whatnot. So if we see that the parents at the end can't do anything about it, and they should do it about the right for the sake of progress in society. And with that, I'd like to end this speech.
Thank you, ma'am. Speakers go to Senator Simon. We now request the Deputy Leader of Opposition to take the floor.
We believe that to abolishing the same-sex school is undermining parent right to choose, and at the same time, it's depriving to children of appropriate style of education to them. Before I move on to my argument, please allow me to give the government main foreign control. The foreign control against the idea of how the government come up here and say that by going with our side, the children cannot adapt, and at the end of the day, they will cause a problem. But principally, we see that this is wrong because actually the children of the society can adapt. They adapt to everything. When they're born, they adapt to walk. And when they eat, they adapt to use a spoon. We see that it is already in the case that children can actually adapt to use and to live in a life. And even if it is not the case, we see that by going with the government side and making the children to abolish only the single-sex school in the high school, we see that there still be if it is a problem of children cannot adapt, there still be a problem of when the children graduate from the secondary school and move to the high school. When we see that if it is really a problem, the children who come from the secondary school still cannot adapt to live in the high school as well. But we see that by going with the SARS code, it is already that the people who graduate from the high school can adapt and live in the university at the same time. And move on to my second rebuttal. The second rebuttal against the idea of how you talk about the parents should give up some of their rights to make the government go on. But we see that it is not the right idea because we believe in principle that the parents always choose what fate to their children. The parents don't want the children to die, and the parents still think that their action should be reward to the children. And we see that sometimes when you talk about we need to give up some rights in order for the government can move on, we see that it is not the case, and we see that it is totally wrong. the third rebuttal against the idea of how we talk about the children who study in the single-sex school will not have the rights to choose what in other sector to learn. We talk about how the children the girl in the single-sex school want to play basketball, but we see that in the status quo it is not the case because I still see that the basketball team from the single-sex from the only girls who competing in the competition, and we see that if the girl really want to play that thing and they report the school can provide them what they want to play, and we see that it is not the case of why you need to abolishing the single-sex school in order to prove this action, because even if it is not the case and the children want to do that much and the parents want them to do that much, we need to abolish the co-education school so they can go on and choose to study at that school. The point was to against the idea of how we talk about our side never destroy the gap between the girl and the boy, but we see that there are no gap in the first place because the girl who live in this world still communicate, still have conversation to other people because they didn't spend 24 hours 7 days in only the school. They still spend time with that. They still spend time with their neighbor, and we see that by going with the government, it's only an assumption that the girl will actually cannot adapt because they never see the boy before because we see that the girl can see the boy all the time. Move on to my argument. My argument is about how abolishing the single-sex school will spread harm to the society. My first level of substantiation is about how single-sex school create opportunity for children to choose. We see that when children who go and who study in the single-sex school, they will receive the course that work best for them, and they will not. Especially when we talk about the course like a gender class or gender-based subject, normally we have a reason that the girls are embarrassment of asking the teacher a question because they are embarrassed of the boy who sits in their class. But we see that if we give them to study in the single-sex school, there will be more power and they will be brave enough to ask the teacher a question. And we see that if they are going to abolish this thing, the girl will go on and continue the action of embarrassment and cannot ask the teacher a question at the end of the day. And we believe that by having an idea of single-sex school, it actually create the idea of the girl and the boy who speak out more because they don't have to embarrass of what the opposite side of opposite sex will think about them. Because we see in many cases that the girl are embarrassed of what the boy will think about them, and the boy are embarrassed of what the girl might think about them. And we see that by going with the single-sex school, it can solve this problem. And even if it is not the case, and you think that it is not right, we believe that your case is mutually exclusive and can also happen in our case. That our case never abolishing the co-education school. Move on to my second level of substantiation about how it is going to be harmful when the government force children to do the thing that they don't want to do. We believe that as my first speaker come up here and talk about the government role to provide right to the people, we see that if the government force the children, force the parents to send the student to the place that they're not likely to do so, we believe that it is harmful to the children themselves because the children will think that why I need to go to this school, why I cannot study with my girl, and why I need to go to this, why I need to enjoy the class that I don't want to do because I don't want to do. And we see that in many times that the girls are feeling bored of studying what the boy like to do, and in many times we see that there are many times that the boy are feeling bored about what the girl like to do. For example, if we have a girl named Jessica, they study in a single-sex school for 10 years, and when they go to the high school, the government said that you need to go to the co-education school. She cannot adapt herself because it is too far and she is too young to adapt. Because when you go to high school, you are about only 15 years old. But we see that by going with the status quo, that made the children to adapt when they're old enough, when they are 18 and they go to the university. We see that this is more feasible and this cause less harm to the children itself.
Sorry.
And then what I have for you is that by going with our side, never destroy the right of parents to choose, and we never give children a bad choice. We believe that by abolishing the single-sex school, it's undermining parental rights to choose, as well as depriving the children of appropriate kind of education for them. With all the reason and empowering them to be opposed. Thank you very much.
7:24.
Thank you, ma'am. Speakers for 7 minutes 24 seconds. We now request the talk of the student to take the floor.
You're here.
The issues I would like to talk about in this debate is on the right of choice that gives, of course, the right of choice of parents and students, and of course, what benefits or what can society get from this. The opposition had to prove that the government should protect the people's rights, and that the people's rights, and of course, by protecting this, you protect the people, and that there is no gap, which they question that there is no gap between these genders, which is why we don't have to abolish same-sex schools. But we are, the opposition side said that by abolishing this, we undermine the parents' rights to choose, and that this will create more harm than good. But in the government side, we say that we should accept, the society would accept these people more because they will benefit from it, because when they know that the children, at an early age, the children are exposed and that these children are exposed, then the society will benefit from them, because of course they're more experienced, they know a lot about the people, because of course when we go out in the world, we interact with different kinds of people, so it would be easier for us. Second, the opposition questioned our proposal when we said that the curriculum is based on that's based on gender, and that they are saying that it is good that when it is based on gender, it will benefit the children more, because the curriculum would be more focused on what we need. But we say that there should be an equal curriculum for them, because what if you are a girl and you have the capability to be advanced? For example, a certain school would tackle this at an early time, and you would, and in another school they wouldn't tackle this early because they think that the brain of a female wouldn't be able to learn this easily. But what if you can? Then it would be equal, because you have an advantage. It would be easy when you know on the same level what guys know. Yes.
Prove to me the difference between changing students from high school to university and secondary school to high school.
So what?
Because you propose that you will only create a single-sex school only in high school, then prove to me the difference between.
Okay. We are saying that it should be that we should abolish the single-sex school in high school, because we believe that when you are teenagers, of course, again, we stress this is your formation stage. This is where you develop. This is the stage where you, of course, preparation for college, for going out in the world and what have you. But this is the stage where we want you to be prepared, where we want these people to have, of course, the skill, or of course, to know the different kinds of people in society, so that they wouldn't be shocked on the different types of people we have in society. Third, they said something that adaptation. Well, they also said that it would be hard, but they also said that it would be easy. But anyway, on adaptation, they said that of course people can easily adapt to because it is natural in humans, that it would be easy for us to adapt. But the government side says that when you go out in society and you experience these kinds of people, you can easily accept the differences, because before I encountered a person like that, so you would know, it wouldn't be much of a shock to you, because you already know these types of people. You already know that it's like you can expect you expect some things from them, so that they, of course, you know that this type of person can do this one. So you can be prepared if you know the different types of people in society. Another is that the opposition side says that, but we are assuming but not conceding to the fact that there is an urgency. But still, what we want is what's best for our children. And we want to abolish single-sex schools, of course, for these students to be, for these children to be prepared. Because we want, of course, also going on to also the choice of the parents. Of course, we have to somehow give up this right because we want them to benefit in the future. We want these children to, of course, even we want these children to gain what is, of course, when we go to something, we have to sacrifice somehow and of course get something great at the end. Which is why we would abolish these one, just these schools, just so we can answer this need. We can address this problem in society. That we should see that this problem that we see that the children need. They said that the parents know what is best for their children, which is why they choose to put their children in single-sex schools. But we have to see that not all parents are, of course, have the same views in life, and what they think, it's what they think is not what is best, but what they think is best. And of course, based on there are different views in life, but there are different views in life and different views of people. Which is why it's not the government should step onto this, so that should intervene, so that of course what we can benefit from these children in society. The opposition also said something that they also said that of course when we are at home we spend time with our father or what have you. But you can't just go talk to your father about menstruation or what have you, because or other girl matters for that fact, because you're used to talking to girls about this. Well, of course, you want them to be exposed and not to be so super uncomfortable when they're around even their parents. Another is that they said that they have boys as friends, but this is not enough, because also in the boys' school they have a different view, they have a different perception of these of the girls. They would think that they're like this. So this stereotype would be erased if they are exposed and they know what kind of people these girls are. And they also said that you can adopt easily when you are old enough or when you're 18. But we say, of course, again, let me stress that we say that high school, or when you're in high school, this is your stage for value formation, for forming or what you will be in the future. That is why we should abolish single-sex schools.